Welcome to the Startup Grind.
So good afternoon everybody and welcome to Startup Grind. Since this is the launch event, I thought I'll talk about the organization. Startup Grind is a global startup community. It was founded in 2010 by Derek Anderson in Silicon Valley, and since he thought the startup ecosystem should flourish everywhere in the world. Today we are in 185 cities across 70 countries. We have done around 2,000 events and have connected over 200,000 entrepreneurs. What we basically try to do is connect the entrepreneurs with mentors, investors, partners, new hires, and even new users in terms of traction for your products and services. In Trivandrum, what we are planning to do is conduct monthly events and bring in local entrepreneurs, CEOs, academicians, policymakers, in fact, anybody who would add value to the startup ecosystem. So welcome again. For our first event, we have Dr. Jayasankar as a chief guest. He's the CEO of the Kerala Startup Mission, which was previously the Technopark Technology Business Incubation Center. It has been home to more than 200 startups from Kerala. I met Dr. Jayasankar 6 months ago when I was planning to launch a women's only business incubation program. And he told me exactly what will work and what will not. 100 days into the program, I'm very happy to tell you that he was absolutely right. And that is precisely why Dr. Jayasankar is here today, to share that kind of wisdom. The wisdom that comes with working with N number of startups and knowing their journey personally. Also, Dr. Jayasankar is a very passionate follower of Maker's Movement, and has played a very important role in bringing the Fab Labs in association with MIT to Kerala. We'll talk about the real startup scene in Kerala, the trends that we see in the startup scene, the incubation facilities that Startup Mission provides, the future of startups in Kerala. But first, we'll start talking about you. You started your career as a management consultant in the private sector, moved on to do your PhD in management, and started working with the government. So could you please tell us about the transition, from the private sector to the government?
Yeah, thanks for the invite, Asha, and I'm also very happy to see a lot of senior entrepreneurs who are here, like Palkopal sir. So thank you, sir. I think he's one of my mentors, so it's a good place to start. Well, talking about my journey, to start with, I started on my own. The management consulting is my own enterprise, if I may call it that way. It's a consultancy thing which I started, and I started when I was in my final year of my master's. We ran for 2 years, and then this question of investment or setting it up came. I was not very bold enough to plunge in money too much from my side, because that required a lot of personnel and space and other things, so I preferred to go for a salaried job. So it is from a management consulting that I went into a salaried job, worked in private sector for some time, worked with TCS, and so I had some reason to come back to Trivandrum and settle down here. So then the best option was government. Taken up some advisory role with Infrastructure Kerala Limited, and then moved to Vizhinjam. From there to IT Mission, heading it, and then a few other special officers, setting up a few institutions, and then coming back to Startup Mission here. So it's 1 year in Startup Mission now. And my focus has been, with a lot of support from various stakeholders here, my focus has been to shift our focus from being a real estate provider, like a space provider, to make it the last thing that we give. So I think we have been fairly successful in that transition. That's what we have been doing all the while.
And could you please explain to us how the Startup Mission plays an important role in nurturing the entrepreneurship ecosystem here?
Yeah. So if I have to tell you like what Startup Mission plays, what role we play on it, it's basically like you got to go back a bit in history as to how did this start. As you rightly said, this place was the business incubation center, not a society, not a incubator per se. It was a place for small companies to come and do. And this was started way back in 2002, when the then CEO Rajiv took actually a big step in creating a small space within Technopark, saying that this is for people who want to start up companies. And then we had a lot of companies from that time onwards, like your 10 software, and also have grown, got acquired strategically. And these are stories which you are not probably hear regularly. 2006 is when this became an incubator under the DST approved scheme, and then from there onwards, I think we've been working with startups, and it's grown in its own way. And we have companies like MobMe which came up, and they started pushing for a larger, wider reach and a larger system, and that led to the starting of a PPP in incubation, which is called as Startup Village in Cochin. And then in 2012 itself, the government announced a student entrepreneurship policy, and then they thought that we have to go big in as far as a policy initiative is concerned. Typically, you see in Kerala, like unlike other states where the industry drives most of it, here it is all driven by policy or the government. Our industry contribution has been there, but then it has been overshadowed by the government contribution. So here the government put up the policy, government started initiating in infrastructure, funding, and all those things. And this T-TBI, which was a society under Technopark, suddenly became a nodal agency for the startup activities in the state. So then it was moved into a nodal agency for startup policy implementation, and it was under the chairmanship of the CM himself. So that's how that society stays. And it today caters to creating that startup spirit in school kids, capacity building at a college level, provision for things in at a technical college level, and also as a startup incubator level. We also work with them in terms of accelerators, providing them funding, and also the mentoring and other activities which go in. So the entire gamut of activities which would come under is today being covered under Startup Mission.
Could you please tell us about the application process and how a person would get selected into the incubation?
Yeah, that's one change we have brought in. Today there's a screening. It's not that first come, first serve kind of thing. Today you have to apply, make an online application to the Startup Mission. And this goes through a round of review from our team. And then they get back to you for a little more details and make a proper plan of it. And this is now presented to an expert committee, which includes people from the industry, academia, and also experts in a particular area, depending on what a project is coming out to us. And the entrepreneur has to come and present before the committee, and then most of the time, if it gets selected, you come into the system, or you go back, go back to the drawing board, come back with a revised plan. Some of them, they realize that we've stepped onto a wrong venture. And even when they are selected inwards, we look at what is the level of maturity of that idea. If it's still the MVP is not reached, then we put them into a pre-incubation area, which is lesser of a constraint for the entrepreneur. And if it is a little more incubatable idea, then you come in as an incubator, and they go along with us for some time. So we're trying to shorten the cycle. Like we had like a 3-year period. Now we are seeing that a pre-incubation is around 6 months maximum, 3 to 6 months. We're talking about an incubation period of around 12 months to 18 months max. And then we have a couple of accelerators being set up in the state. And so that's how the whole process will go.
So how much time does it actually take from the application to the selection to starting the company?
We have an expert committee meeting every month. So it's depending on the completeness of the application. It would be a month maximum before you get called for the interview, and thereafter it's only signing a agreement and then getting it.
In the incubation, I understand that you give a super awesome co-working space. But other than the co-working space, what other facilities do you give to these companies in terms of mentorship, funding, which is a very important challenge for the new entrepreneurs, market access, international visibility? What kind of support do you give to all these entrepreneurs?
Okay, to quickly put it, the space anyway is there. So that's a co-working space. As I said, we don't want to create cubicles and put them into cubicles as of now. The pre-incubation period, let me start from the pre-incubation. In a pre-incubation, we don't need them to register as a company. So it's only the founders can come in, and then still their idea is not finalized, so that's fine. Once you get into incubation, you have to be a company. That's their own interest that you don't get your personal liabilities on, so that's the reason why. Yeah, space is one, that's a basic thing. We provide them the basic infrastructure in terms of internet and basic housekeeping, whatever is required to sustain the place. And then we have regular mentoring sessions where people from the industry, from technology come and talk to them. We also have an in-house review going on a regular basis with all the companies, so that we review and see that they are on a progressive mode. And technical expertise, as we said, people come in. We also sponsor these people to go and meet up people and present themselves in all the events, take part in events and all these hackathons, competitions and other things. Recent tenders, Kerala government has said that they'll give a lot of weightage to startup. So then we also certify them to say that these are startups which are registered with the startup mission, and then they get some leniency in terms of pre-qualification with those tenders. And market matching, you definitely connect a lot of people. We also have a list of mentors who are directly available on our portal. We have a list of VCs who come and visit to us on sector-specific funding. As far as idea funding is concerned, we have our own small kitty of funds which we work with people. It's not big, but then at least sustains them until they reach a viable product.
Could you give us some examples on real funding that has happened with the companies in the incubation, if you do not mind?
Yeah, I think at least 6 to 7 companies have taken various levels of funding for their products. I could
As in loans or VC fundings?
Okay. At this
the types of funding.
Yeah, at this point of time, all this seed funds, even the DST norm is what we follow. These are, you could say that these are kind of though we call it as a seed fund, it's like a subsidized loan kind of thing. It's a 6% loan which they have a moratorium of 1 year, and then they start paying it at a later stage. But the equity kind of funding comes from KSIDC. The larger chunk of funding comes at the next level from KSIDC kind of agencies who can take an equity participation into it. We have initially taken equity participation, but I have to say that has not been very, the models have not been very successful in terms of, because that time we were letting in all services and product companies. Now we have a screening criteria that it has to be a technology product company. Because if you really want to go into this incubator thing and scale up very fast, come out successful, have to be product focused.
For a country like India, where we have a lot of young people who need jobs, services actually provides a great platform in terms of number of jobs and safe revenue model. But then product companies would limit the number of jobs that they can offer to the people. So why do you still insist on product companies?
True. Services have an option, exactly, yes, but I don't think they need an incubator. I can still, like, I've been in a renter coder or somewhere, I can still do a freelancer. I can just get a few people, hire a small space and do my service business. Incubator is required because you're in a product space, you're on a high risk platform. You may not earn revenues in the early period. That's where somebody has to support you. You need to scale up very fast because from an idea to product around 100 days, I think you're either obsolete or late. So that's why the focus.
But Technopark itself has been built on that foundation of services industry. If you look at the larger companies in India, Infosys, TCS.
Indian IT industry has been is built on the foundation of IT services companies. So even NASCOM is going product.
Okay.
They're focusing on all their product conclaves. They're focusing on product companies for startups. Like it's a very mature market, that's IT services industry. So like people are now focusing on products. So that's just a logical thing.
So in addition to these incubation facilities, you also done a lot of interesting programs like Startup Box, Leadership Academy, and boot camps. Could you please also tell us about it? I think that's where the students would come into picture.
Yeah. So Government of Kerala, when it started rolling out these entire programs, they looked at the entire set of stakeholders and tried to reach out to each one of them. So if I look at the government and even look at the government policy which has been brought up, so we're one of the first states to bring out a startup policy. Really look at those policies, like what you could say that we are touching the school kids with a Raspberry Pi distribution at a school level. This is to create that the culture of doing, learning, and also create that entrepreneurial spirit in them, having done something on their own. So that's coming out well. So we had two iterations of the Raspberry Pi distribution, the good projects being awarded by Chris Gopalakrishnan and all those people. Now the second level is now when they reach to the next level, after this is done at the 8th standard. So the next level we have associated with Intel for an Intel Innovation Challenge. It's for the K-12 kind of students, 9 to 12 actually. There's one round has happened in Trivandrum. The next round is scheduled in November in Cochin. So we'll have a couple of iterations of that also. So that brings up a little more kids from that area. Now they go to colleges, mostly predominantly engineering colleges and also the arts and science colleges. We are creating what is called as boot camps. Now they start up boot camps as an avenue for these kids to do and learn when they are in college. So we're very clear that we don't want people to leave their studies halfway and then attempt entrepreneurship. So that's not, unfortunately, when we talk about a lot of good entrepreneurs who've dropouts, as we call it, that sends a wrong message. So we want to correct the message, say that exceptionally good talents may have come then, but an exception is not a norm. So we really tell everyone that try this when you're in school. We'll give you a platform that is a boot camp where you try out. See, our point is that even if you don't make a very big commercial success out of it, you still have a very good academic project.
Yes.
So it's not waste. You have a good learning which happens, and then you don't lose your number of years, and you still have time to rework, come out. And in case you succeed, and that's your call at any point of time. So boot camps support them. They come out of boot camps, and we have all these incubators, like the Technopark based incubator with Startup Mission itself is there. We have Startup Village, which is there. We have an electronics incubator, which is being set up by IIIT and under the support, like with the support of DIT. We have NIT TBI. We have Amrita TBI. Amal Choudhury has got a TBI. So many TBIs around, which is supported by government across. You go one step from there. They come in for product ideas. Then you need all these new gadgets. The box campaign was done to get all these iOS developers excited about new gadgets, and that box contained the entire
It's
application.
expensive otherwise to get the phone.
I think from a government point of view, they've taken a call that this is going to be an investment in the next generation. So that's how it was distributed. This time, the last time it was done through a program which was run by Startup Village, which is called FinTech. And so the kids identified for the FinTech program were given these boxes. And continuing from there, we are also nodal agency for various programs by Government of India like PRISM, TEP and all, which these are innovation enhancing kind of programs where we get grants. And then come back to incubation and then acceleration. We have tied up with Ernst & Young for an accelerator in the Kinfra Film Video Park. We have already have in the InfoPark and Startup Mission is supporting on behalf of Kerala government with NASCOM for a NASCOM warehouse, which is 10,000 square feet there and 10,000 startups, which is in a large area which is there in Cochin. We are also in discussion with GTech to see if we can start another accelerator here, a program in association with them. So I think that covers the journey. And okay, to touch on the financing part, we do some small financing initially. KFC, the Financial Corporation, has come up with a collateralized loan and a lot of schemes for them. KSIDC is now going into startup funding in a large way. So I think this is what the government has planned over the years.
Even when so much is happening, we see that 80% to 90% of the startups fail. So what percentage of the companies actually graduate from the incubation, and what actually happens to the rest of them who do not graduate?
Graduation to us means the maximum period we hold is around 3 years. So one is they complete the 3 years and look for an alternate space outside. Like this is mostly for companies that has been in the services domain. Second is they get one big customer, the anchor client or somebody, and start working on that and go ahead. Or the product, if they have, is already commercialized. It has gone up in the market and got an acceptance already, nail, whatever it is. Second is the fourth is they get acquired by a strategic partner or get acquired by somebody. These are the possible ways. And there are, of course, another large option where nothing happens and you need to liquidate a company kind of stuff. So that's a failure for various reasons. Either the startups, if it's they get a better alternative or a better job or better another company to work on, any reason they could close it down. So that's the last option. So your 10% would mean the flyaway successes which you see.
Yeah.
But I think the rest of the 4 options also gave some certain degree of successes.
So it doesn't mean that the rest of them are shutting down or closing down?
Need not be. But I think you may not have a big success as in the case of the others, but they would also follow their own growth trajectory. There are different trajectories for different companies. Like most of these aggregator models or the products which we spoke about need to scale up very fast.
Yeah.
Because otherwise somebody else can take it up. Some of the highly technological IP-based things might take a little more lead time from R&D to a product thing. So it could vary, and there are people who are doing well, and I would say that recently we had almost near to 20 companies graduating from us at various degrees. May fall into many of these categories. Some split. See, during the scale up, the founders have the issue of setting the hierarchy of the team and all those stuff. So some of them split. So that also could be a reason. So we have various degrees. So
do you step in those kind of issues and help them because you've been with them for so long?
No, I think as an institution, no. On a personal basis, if you are able to do some value add, yes. See, it's between two people or four people who want to work together and reach something. They had a vision. So it's not babysitting. Like incubation, we don't do a babysitting. We facilitate, we monitor. They take service from mentors, and I think they take a call whichever is the right one.
Now let's talk about the trends that's happening in the startup scene. You said you're very keen on the products. We see a lot of enthusiasm in 3D printing, augmented reality, virtual reality. Could you please tell us about the kind of ideas that's coming into incubation and you get to work with?
Yeah, we are getting people in augmented reality, and that's one big area which even the industry itself is growing, and we are also looking at, and we are in talk to some of the larger players like Intel to support us on this area. We are getting a lot of, at least we have a couple of them who are working on 3D printing and related activities. So yeah, I think products are coming up on this, but then there's a long way because there's a lot of technology advancements which have happened in these areas abroad.
Would you like to say an example of any
No,
product
even
that 3D?
Even 3D printing, we have a startup within our premises who is working on a 3D printer. But if you look at it, there are established 3D printers across the world actually. Even we had this MIT professors coming and they said that it's been there for now almost a decade. So, but it's not come of age because of its own limitations. So there are more technologies coming in. We are also now looking at printed electronics. We're looking at general IoT and beyond kind of stuff. So all these areas are being looked into. These are all areas which are coming up, and a lot of opportunities being spoken about. But then one thing which we insist is there needs to be a lot of capacity to be built down under. So that's why we are working with schools and colleges. These are not going to be knowledge driven or IP based kind of stuff, and that needs to have a lot of capacity down under.
So how do you deal with the international pressure and competition with respect to these emerging technologies?
I think they have access to all these facilities right now. So if you talk about rapid prototyping, we have, as you said, we have this fab labs here already. So they have exposed to all those things, and today internet is a big leveler, so all of them know what's happening elsewhere and they're all connected. So we also support startup CEOs to go across and then meet up with their counterparts, meet up with people abroad. We do support them in financing those kind of travels. If there's a business case, if there's a big conference to be attended, we do support that. And the government, if you look at the startup policy, is also supporting and patenting their findings, and so almost all areas we're touching them. May not be a very big support, but definitely there's some support on that.
Just curious about the patenting thing. It's a very expensive process, so how do you support them in terms of financing?
No, I think government has the policy clearly lays down that something like a 2 lakh rupee support for an Indian patent and a 10 lakh for a US patent.
If they are incubated in your incubation?
No, not necessarily. So Startup Mission today doesn't focus only on the incubators within Technopark or Cochin. We are a nodal agency to look at, cater to the needs of startups across. And I don't think the policy is set even a boundary within Kerala. So the policymakers have kept it very open, saying that you can't put geographical boundaries to it. So some of them graduate here and go to Bangalore as a quicker way of, because it's a mature ecosystem. So we're not in competition with anyone at that point of time.
In terms of energy, in terms of success, when do you think is the right time to start a company?
I'll look very stupid if I put any of those age into it.
Yeah.
We've seen startups from students. We've seen people who have been working in very well-settled jobs, leaving their job and coming startups. We've seen very senior guys coming in and starting it. So we've seen it all walks of life. It's probably when the bug bits you. So I don't think there is a perfect age for starting it at any point of time.
And there's also this trend, you see, people do not want to leave their job but want to see if their idea works and if it would actually fetch them money before they would actually quit their job and start the company as a full-time thing. So do you give some kind of support for industry experts who want to set up a company but are not really willing to let go of their safe jobs?
Okay, I've tried this twice and failed twice, so
You don't personally recommend it?
no.
Okay.
I know a few people who are there in their jobs. They register a company, they have other people who are manning it, and they keep it running until they think it's good time to step in. So that is always there. But running both together, I think, I would say that entrepreneurship is a full-time job. I don't think it's a part-time thing that you do until you...
But then if you provide opportunity for people to test their ideas
I think
in the incubation, have you ever done that?
No.
Who are
No,
actually working
no,
with some company? No, you
no.
don't do that.
No, I don't want to put it. I'm talking to JTech in those lines, but then the problem which has been highlighted is all of them can do their ideas, but then putting it up as a company would mean a conflict of interest, or I think it depends on what their policies of their company are. So that area we have not worked on.
We see very few women entrepreneurs in the tech sector when compared to the conventional sector. It's much more easier to start a company and run the company compared to a lot of other businesses, but you still see very few women doing it. And why is that? Does it concern you?
The point is, as far as I've learned a bit, entrepreneurship doesn't look forward to any kind of group systems. Actually, it's basically an entrepreneur or not an entrepreneur. I don't think the gender has to do anything with it, or a region or a class. I think maybe the ecosystem might have been more supportive. So that's the only point. Yeah, we have less number of women entrepreneurs here, and that is the case with everywhere. And is there a way that you can increase the number of women entrepreneurs? I don't know. If there is a constraining factor, you can clear it up. But then there are. I personally, I don't know. The state might look at. KSIDC has already gone ahead with women entrepreneurship development with a program called V and other things. But I really don't know how you can make a person an entrepreneur if the person as an individual doesn't want to be an entrepreneur. As far as capacity building is concerned, I don't think in engineering there's any discrimination between a woman, like a lady and a guy. But yeah, I think the difference is there, and government might initiate steps to bring it up. On a personal note, I think an entrepreneur is an entrepreneur, and other classifications don't work.
In terms of policy, government is also coming up with initiatives like NRI Technology Business Incubators. Wouldn't you think it would be interesting to look at H4 Technology Business Incubators, because there are a lot of well-educated, professionally qualified women out there who go to foreign countries and are really unable to find job opportunities because of these visa restrictions.
We already have people who are managing their companies here.
Yes.
So then
I'm talking specifically about the H4 visas, because there are a lot of women in those visas.
Generally, you get this happening when since you need two people to form the company, so they step in as a director. So those kind of numbers would be there. But we have people who are working abroad who have started company, as earlier said. Somebody else is manning it here, but they are still supporting them. They are working, they're still supporting it.
So it's possible?
It's still possible. You register a company here and run it, it's possible. But a specific NRI TBI, there's one in Cochin. It's now got acceptance of DST, and we are supposed to run it. But for me, it's a personal, again, a contradiction of who's an entrepreneur. Like, how do you classify TBIs? Like, you can have it in an industry vertical or a technology horizontal, but other adjectives creating TBIs over that, I don't know how much it will help.
And also, what are the options for other professionals, say for doctors, teachers, musicians, who would want to start a company and would require some support from the incubation center?
We've not put any restriction as far as...
Do you have other than engineers?
No, I think our boot camps are there in arts and science colleges also. So there are possibilities, and we had some group of architects looking at our fab lab to create some of their designs, and there are people in agriculture who are looking at. See, we are a technology incubator, but then we are open to any amount of other kind of incubators, and there's a large setup which is coming up in Cochin, which is called the Technology Innovation Zone, which is supposed to be a multi-sectoral, multi-domain space, various incubators in various domains, so that there's some cross-pollination and there's something coming out of it.
And is the Fab Lab open to public?
Yeah. And
how can the public use the Fab Labs?
You can go into the website, make a block their request there. And we have a payment gateway, they can make the payment and then come over. And there are people there to handhold them if they don't know the machines.
A lot of designers in Kerala who would like to explore the opportunities in Fab Labs. So it's actually open to everybody.
Open to everyone,
And also we see this trend of using social media for social good. When we talk about it, we are very successful in all the e-governance initiatives we have done in Kerala when compared to rest of the states in India. And even our Akshaya centers are doing absolutely well. And we have started seeing this trend among bureaucrats. For example, the collector Prasad of Kozhikode, who's using the social media for reaching out to people and getting things done which are really, which are real issues. Do you see such kind of ideas coming from the graduates of engineering colleges who are out there, creating an app that would solve a real issue?
All these are working on some problem, right? They all take some problem or some issue there and then try to address it. So that definitely is there. Social entrepreneurship is on the rise. A lot of people are working on real life problems and trying to solve that. Those kind of issues are there. As you rightly said, Akshaya is one large attempt of creating entrepreneurs. It's actually a network of 2,000 entrepreneurs. They're not a government system. As in just a network of 2,000 entrepreneurs who are delivering government service. So that's one big attempt which has succeeded. At a lower level, may not be at a product level or it's a service level thing. And it started for e-literacy and have gone ahead to government e-services kind of stuff. So that's there. There are a lot of ideas coming up for solving social issues, relevant current social issues.
I think it's almost time to wrap up, and we would end this by discussing your favorite startup story.
I wouldn't want to name one or two, but then there are quite a few which I'm very keenly looking at because these are product startups. One of them is into a level of a strategic acquisition or a partnership with somebody, so that will be one good, maybe the biggest size in the TBI Technopark probably. There are some other companies who are into augmented reality, which I personally believe that would fetch them a big demand outside. There are people like one person is already in Kickstarter getting for his electronic device, gadget. It's called Raksha. It's a accident reporting kind of a support device for transportation, as we said. So he's in the Kickstarter right now. There are quite a few of them who are really somebody on loyalty, quite a few of them whom I'm very keen on, and we are closely following them, trying to help them to the extent possible. And we've also been supported by a lot of support coming from various corners like investors, even banks, like the Federal Bank had supported us, and quite a few of them coming forward and extending support. So yeah, looking forward to a lot more of these companies coming up in terms of, not in terms of volume, but in terms of the value they create actually. Thank you
very much for your time, and thanks Startup Mission for supporting the launch of Startup Grind.
We work with all the partners, so we're looking forward to Startup Grind as another partner for the extended.
Thank you very much, sir.